Hello everyone. In this session, we'll cover Cisco ACI and the Synergy Virtual Connect Interop. The first part will be some presentation, and the second part will I'll be doing some demo. So my name is Hongjun Ma, and I'm part of the team for HPE Synergy Technical Enablement. So my focus is more on the networking and the virtual connect, especially around the virtual connect interop with Cisco, including Cisco ACI. Okay, let's get started. So pretty much this is the agenda. So you can see the first section is more like the first four topic. We'll cover some overview and the configuration between Cisco ACI and the Synergy. And after that, we'll doing some demo. And the first section will be the Synergy networking with Cisco ACI overview. So as you know, Synergy for the core networking part, we call it the fabric. It will be uh, consists by the virtual connect. We have three fabric. So for each fabric, you can have virtual connect module. But so the this is a more like the overview of the Synergy fabric layout. And if you focus on the individual module, so right now the current latest module for Synergy Virtual Connect is 100 gig, 100 gig be 510 or 32 gig module. So for the ACI part, the main port will be the six ports, at the center. So this is a six 100 gig uplink. It can break down to 40 gig and also can break down to 10 gig and 25 gig. So this is a main focus we'll be covering between the Cisco ACI and Synergy uplink port. This is pretty much one more level of zoom in. So you can see this six port, the numbering will be from Q1 to Q6. Okay, so the port can be individual 100 gig or 40 gig, or we can break down to, for each port, we can break down to 425 gig or 410 gig. Fiber channel we can also do for each individual port, but for ACI interop, right, this is not related. So pretty much this is between, for now, ACI and Synergy uplink. We'll more focus on the Ethernet part. And this is many customers and will ask, okay, how do you connect a Cisco ACI to Synergy Virtual Connect? So pretty much, this is a very standard topology. We can call it a butterfly. So pretty much we cross connect between the Synergy master module and pair of Cisco or ACI leaf switches or the Nexus top of rack or end of row or even core switches. So the for pretty much the on ACI side or Nexus side it will be the VPC virtual port channel, and on virtual connect side will be the doing the MLAC multi-module or LAC LACP bundling. So both sides, we can, the so on the ACI side, it will showing as a one logical RCP peer, and it's the same thing for the virtual connect two modules across, different frames. And on the right side, you can see the um, uh, blue and red and purple color. So purple color is for the interconnect, the clustering port. This is more like the on the Cisco term, it's more like a VPC peer link. We don't connect these two ports to ACI. This is more like between the two Synergy Virtual Connect Mass module. And for the we can stack multiple Synergy frames together, and then pretty much we have A side and B side. So A side going to the one individual server or multiple individual server, A side of the NIC, and B side of the blue connection will be going to the server side, B side of the NIC, so for high redundancy. But pretty much, on the right side, the blue and purple and red color cable, we have the Synergy standard, cabling guide, you just cable it up at the day one, you never change it. On the left side, in case between the Cisco and virtual connect master module, you can, for this one, we are showing the four links, but you can, have multiple links. You can expand your links or reduce your links, or even you can set up the multiple MLAG and VPC, links across the Cisco tier and virtual connect tier. So on the left side, you can change depending on your user requirement and workload. And so this presentation, we are not focusing on the how, what, Cisco ACI, how the detail, the deep dive, pretty much the most common scenario for, Synergy and ACI Interop is customer already have the, networking team focus on the Cisco ACI part, but, in general, they have some questions about, if the Cisco ACI can interop with HPE Synergy. So we touch a little bit on what the Cisco ACI, and we'll cover in more in depth on how the configuration look like across Cisco and HPE Synergy. And for some topic, we'll also cover what's being configured on the VMware side for the hypervisor layer. So over here you can see for Cisco ACI, for the data forwarding layer, pretty much we have a spine switches, we have leaf switches, right? So spine switches is more like fabric core switches. So no other third party or even Cisco, non-leaf switches will ever go to spine switches directly. So all the servers or the Cisco or other switches or the Synergy Virtual Connect module will be only able to connect up to leaf switches. And leaf switches, they have topology link, fabric link directly going to the spine switches. So and but really for the control plane, the key component for Cisco ACI will be the AP controller. This is more like the class of servers running the Cisco APIC software, doing all the intelligence controlling for the whole fabric. They will manage all the user API requests, GUI, and the user will log into the API controller and configure the whole ACI fabric, and the API configuration will be pushed down to the leaf and spine switches for real data forwarding behavior. So this is in a nutshell how the ACI fabric look like. And for the ACI endpoint connectivity, typically for networking team, they have two options. They have a network-centric mode, or they have a application-centric mode. So network-centric mode is pretty much trying to mimic the traditional networking. So for the ACI, you have one bridge domain. On the bridge domain, for each bridge domain you have one EPG, and for each EPG you define one VLAN. So pretty much it's one-to-one. So it's pretty much this behavior will forward the traffic like a traditional Cisco Nexus switches. So nothing special, nothing fancy. You just want to make sure the customer feel comfortable with ACI. But for some advanced features, Cisco or for the eventual, the goal for deploy the ACI Fabric is, application-centric mode. So in the application-centric mode, for the networking perspective, you can have multiple bridge domains, and for each bridge domain, you can have multiple EPGs depending on your application requirement. And for EPGs, so you can have one VLAN or multiple VLANs. So pretty much, this is two options when you want to design Cisco ACI. So in general, for network-centric mode, it's very simple. So it can work with Cisco, uh, it can work with HPE Synergy net mapped mode and the tunnel mode. For application-centric mode, most of the scenario will work, but there's one scenario will, in the later on in the reference guide, for the Cisco ACI and Synergy Interop white paper, there's one scenario you need to be a little bit careful. That's, inter-VLAN bridging when the Cisco ACI doing that. So that's, when you have this scenario, when you have a Synergy tunnel mode, so you might need to tuning a couple of, parameters to get it working. But so in this presentation, we don't intend to cover in details. If you want are interested with digging further, you can refer the technical white paper attached at the end of this presentation. And this is the Synergy and ACI, typical topology. So you can see for the ACI side, we have two leaves, and for Synergy Virtual Connect, we have, two Virtual Connect module across the different frames. So you can see this is more like the butterfly module, butterfly connections. In this topology, you can see in my lab, I'm using Virtual Connect 40 gig. It's not the latest, the Virtual Connect module. It's just due to my lab, budget concern. But for all the topics discussed in this presentation, it replies to Virtual Connect 100 gig module as well. So all the concept, all the configuration doesn't change, when you are trying to deploy the latest Synergy Virtual Connect 100 gig module. Okay, so let's talk about, some detailed configuration between Cisco ACI and the Synergy. So if you know Synergy Virtual Connect basic concept, so you are pretty familiar with for the Synergy networking configuration, we can have, you can define the individual network. We call it an Ethernet way, or many times we call it a mapped network. So in mapped network, so if you have a Cisco ACI, have the EPG, you have on the EPG you have a VLAN, so you have to match on the Cisco on the Synergy side. So if you EPG you have the encapsulation 100, then on the virtual connect mapped mode or Ethernet mode, we need to define 100 in order to carry the VLAN ID 100 correctly and forward to your hypervisor layer. So this is the mapped mode. On the other side, we have a tunnel mode. In tunnel mode, pretty much we really don't care what's your VLAN defined on your ACI layer or Nexus layer or hypervisor layer. This is more like a pseudo wire. Whatever VLAN you forward it to Synergy, it will just forward it down to the hypervisor layer. So this is two modes of network configuration inside the Synergy, and we'll show the configuration with the Cisco ACI for each mode. And this is for the Synergy uplink. If you have a if you have a Synergy mapped network, then you need to define the traditional Ethernet or mapped, uplink, and you need to include all the mapped network inside this uplink. And if you have a tunnel network, then you need to define a dedicated tunnel uplink and include the tunnel network inside your uplink. And you can have a multiple uplink set for virtual connect module for then you can say okay for this uplink. So in this case I have this is a mapped uplink. I have a five networks inside this mapped uplink. And also I define and for some other available ports, I just use the tunnel uplink. I only include one tunnel network inside this uplink set. Okay, so you can have a multiple uplink set. You can have mapped uplink for some ports and tunnel uplink set for some other ports. You can do two modes at the same time. Internally, we separate the traffic, by virtual connect, so you don't need to worry about the traffic being mixed together between the two modes. This is just a very brief, on the server connection, you can define, you can patch whatever tunnel network or meta network to your server side, which will in turn connect it to your VMware or other hypervisor or Windows Linux NIC side. Okay, so this is really the first, configuration overview between the ACI network and the Synergy. So you can see, uh, so if on typically, for most straightforward static configuration for ACI, we really, if you want to define some traffic under the, so you need to create a tenant, you need to create the application profile, you need to create the EPG, and under EPG, you go to the static port, you define on the Cisco term, we call it port encapsulation. So pretty much this is the port facing the server side, facing the Synergy side. So if you say I have a VLAN, I want to do the the tagged traffic, which is the trunk traffic, then you want to define the trunk as the port encapsulation mode, and then pretty much then you will say on the Synergy side, on the uplink, if it's the mapped network, you need to make sure you create this mapped network 170. You can call it whatever name. In this case, I call it, external access management. But this is whatever name makes sense for your user application. But this does matter. The VLAN 70 has to match the port encapsulation VLAN number here. And if it's a trunk, then you need to make sure you do not check the native, tag over here. So if over here is 8021P, which is a native VLAN on the ACI, then if it's map mode, you need to make sure you check this one. So for map mode, you have to match whatever, config on the Cisco side. And this is, as I said in the previous slide, if it's on the Cisco side, you have whatever VLAN under this trunk port doing the native VLAN, then you need to make sure if you are using the mapped network inside the Synergy, you need to make sure you check the native option under the uplink. And for tunnel network, actually, it's quite easy. So you can, as I said, for tunnel network, we really don't care what's being defined, and whatever VLAN being defined on the ACI side. We really don't look at VLAN 140 number, and we really don't look at the if it's a access mode, a native mode, or if it's trunk mode. We just have one pseudo wire over here, and then this traffic, VLAN 140 native traffic, will be arriving on your hypervisor, for example, VMware. So on your VMware vSwitch or DVS, you need to make sure you have the VLAN 140 over there, and you have the native checked for the VMware vSwitch. So on the virtual connect tunnel side, it will be just like a sort of wire to patch the traffic, directly back and forth. Okay, so this is some, some customers when they first deploy the Synergy Virtual Connect with Cisco ACI, they want to find out how do I verify my cablings, right? So first of all, for the LLDP neighbor, so you need to make sure on the ACI you see this is I'm just using the APIC some CRI command. You can do the show LLDP neighbor for your leaf nodes, and you will see this virtual connect 40 gig module. You can see your local interface. You can see the remote interface. On the Synergy side, the key thing is you need to go to the networking. You need to go to go to the interconnect section. Then you select that virtual connect module. Then you will see the remote identifier. You can see this is Synergy. This is an ACI leaf switches, and you can see the port ID. uh, on top of the LLDP layer. So for if you was customer wants to make sure the VPC is set up correctly between the ACI and the virtual connect module, you can see on the ACI you can do some show VPC map or show port channel summary. You want to make sure your VPC is up and running. On the ACI side, you can see the two for this individual leaf switches. You have a two Ethernet interface is up and running inside the VPC bundle. And on the Synergy side, the key section will be under networking. You need to go to the logical interconnect. You go to the virtual connect. Then you will see very important. You want to see each individual link is linked and is active. Okay, you can see the port ID. You will see the LAG state and it's connected to. You can see over here we have four 10 gig link up and running across two virtual connect module. Okay, so another common topic for customer is okay, my ACI is doing the VMM integration with VMware and does it work with the Synergy? So pretty much ACI VMM really simplifies some workload connectivity. So pretty much you define inside the ACI you define a virtual networking component linked to the vCenter and when you inside your EPG, you can associate the DVS created by the ACI, and the moment you do that, uh, the on the DVS created by ACI, the port group will be created whenever you associate that virtual domain to your individual EPG. And the VLAN ID, VLAN will be allocated from your pre-defined VLAN pool. So in this case, you can see I have this DVS EPG4 associated with this vCenter DVS, and then you can see it's ACI created this DVS, and ACI also created this port ID and assigned the VLAN ID 3001 for this individual EPG. And so, but the interesting part is, right now the ACI is not directly connected with your hypervisor. It's the Synergy, it's virtual connect module is in the between. So many customers say, okay, does it work? The answer is yes, but see. You still do the normal configuration, nothing changed, and the one thing you want to make sure is on the Synergy in the interconnect setting, you want to make sure LLDP tagging is enabled. So this will enable the virtual connect downlink LLDP to the VMware layer. So virtual connect uplink LLDP is always enabled towards the ACI layer. So you have two layer of LLDP, and then the ACI will have a knowledge to to understand, okay, from all my hypervisor, okay, how, it's connected to it. It will see it's connected to virtual connect module, and this virtual connect module is coming into my whatever the leaf switch port, and then it will push the leaf switch policy, ACI policy, to this particular leaf switch port. So in general, you want to make sure you enable LLDP tagging, unless you are doing some um, pre-provisioning for the domain association. But in general, it's a good idea to enable LLDP tagging for Synergy downlink. So that's one thing you want to make sure. So all other things, uh, on the ACI side, you don't need to do any special configuration. You still need to create your virtual networking, need to associate your VMM vCenter, and then you assign your EPG to this particular VMM domain. Okay, so for the Fabric Manager, with the Cisco ACI integration, so Synergy Fabric Manager is really is trying to a feature trying to help the Cisco and ACI their networking configuration consistency, because on one side you have the Cisco admin defined a bunch of ACI, EPG, encapsulation VLAN, and on the other side you have a Synergy admin. They are trying to find out, okay, what's the configuration VLAN I should maybe configure in my Synergy virtual connect in order to match. So one thing you want to make sure is you do not have to have a Fabric Manager feature in order to get the ACI and the synergy working. You can define, as long as you know, okay, what's the VLAN defined on the ACI side, you can just define the same VLAN inside synergy, either by mapped mode or tunnel mode, and the traffic will flow without a problem, as we previously discussed. But sometimes the this feature will the intention of this feature will help to catch some in configuration mismatch between the Cisco ACI and the Synergy networking. We really, when we say the Fabric Manager, the Fabric side, we call it the ACI, right? But we really don't try to manage ACI, because ACI, you already have your centralized manager, it's an APIC, right? So we really just we only need some read-only access, and we just need to log into your API controller. Pretty much, you need to input your API controller IP address or DNS inside this Fabric Manager. It will go try to log in with a read-only access. After it log in, it just need to go under the EPG and try to read, whatever VLAN being configured on the EPG, and then it will in turn to look at the local synergy configuration to see, okay, assuming you have a ACI, you have three EPG VLAN you configure, but on the one view virtual connect side you only have one VLAN. It will say, okay, if your tenant is configuration is consistent or inconsistent across these two components between the ACI and the Synergy. So if it's inconsistent, then it will say, okay, it will say something like, on ACI you have this, 100, 101, 102 config, but on in Synergy side you have, only have 100, right? So on the ACI side you have three VLANs, on the Synergy side you have one VLANs. So, oh, here's a solution. Do you want, me to do that? So it can also try to auto create the two network and add it into the uplink set to make it consistent across the two components. Okay, that's pretty much what this feature is trying to do. Here's what That's what we said. So if it's inconsistent, it will say whatever VLAN missing. So that means, we always regard whatever config on the ACI side as a golden template. We are trying to use the Synergy configuration to follow that configuration. It's not the other way around. It's not trying to say, okay, on one view side, we config one VLAN. Hey, on ACI side, you config three VLANs. You needed to delete those two actual VLANs, right? We always regard whatever config on the ACI side as the correct configuration for the networking, and then in turn, we review whatever config on the Synergy side. And so if there's any VLAN mismatch, then we are just trying to say, okay, we can add or remove whatever VLAN, mismatch from the ACI side. And over here, you can see, the Fabric Manager will tell you if it can do it automatically. In the after OneView 5.20, there's a feature if you go back once deck. So when you add the Fabric Manager, there's one option you can say, okay, do you want me to enable the auto remediation? So in that case, if you want to enable, then it will automatically correct all this mismatch. In this case, I didn't automatically enable that feature. So in this case, you need to go to the action. You need to say, click, I want to remediate. I want to confirm to let the Fabric Manager to do that. So that's one extra layer admin confirmation. I just want to make sure. So that's the purpose. But if you trust the Fabric Manager, you can totally let it to do that without your confirmation. Okay. So right now let's hop onto some demo. I'll be using my lab ACI gear and Synergy gear to show the first demo will be the Synergy ACI connectivity verification. So let's see so I have ACI gear, I have the um Synergy side, this is one view side. So first of all, as I mentioned, you can for the LLDP neighbor information, pretty much you need to go to the one view. Okay, then you go to the networking, you go to interconnect. Okay, so then in this case, I already have this interconnect. You can see this is my uplink port for this module. You can see this is my Q62. You can see it's connecting up to 93.180 EX switch, and this is port ID. So this shows my cable is right, and I see the remote LLDP neighbor. And for LACP, so you want to make sure you go to OneView, you go to the instead of interconnect, you go to the logical interconnect, and you under the uplink set, you will see the uplink states. You want to make sure, as I said, each link is active. So over here I have 4 active links. That means I have 4 links up and running in the LACP module. You can see this is remote LADP neighbor information. Okay, so on the ACI side, if you want to verify the ACI side, you can see there's some command you can do. So for LDP neighbor, you can see fabric 4. I know that's my that particular leaf switch ID. Neighbor, 121 detail. So this one my 9180 switch. You can see it's connected to my lab, Synergy vertical module. And for the LACP on the ACI side, you can do show VPC map. I know this, the name is Synergy VPC. I want to take a look at 1.4 leaf. You can see this VPC name. You can see the leaf ID. You can see the uh, this port. You can see the port channel port. It's a port 2. Okay, and then if you go to for this individual, this switch channel summary interface is port channel 2. Okay, you can see for this leaf. So I have two 93.180 each. 93.180. I have a two VPC links. You can see both of them are up and running. Okay, so that's how you can do a quick verification for uh, physical LLDP and also the one layer up LACP state on both sides. Okay, so that's the first demo. The second demo, we'll take a look at the Synergy mapped networks and configuration and with ACI. So for this configuration, go back to my GUI. Let's hop into API GUI. So let's do the tenants, and we'll go to the tenant one, and let's hop to I know for this one we can choose the AP1. That's pretty much a bunch of my management VLAN. You can see my EPG VLAN 170. And if you go to static ports, you can see this is going to the access. This is pretty much is uh, doing the native option. Okay, so then if you go to my uh, think this I think this mapped mode. Yeah, this is my uplink going to that VPC. You can see I I I have 170 here, and you need to make sure. And this is a very important. This is a mapped or Ethernet uplink. So if on the ACI side you define as the 170 as native, you need to make sure on the Synergy virtual connect uplink, you also define VLAN 170 and you mark 170 as native VLAN. Okay, so this is how you configure between the Synergy mapped mode uplink and the networks with ACI EPG configuration. Okay, so the next demo is the Synergy tunnel networks with the Cisco ACI. So and for this one, we'll be using, let's go to, I think my VLAN 140 is the one. If you see the static ports, this is going to the Synergy. So you can see this another VLAN going to another VPC port channel is also this VPC. This VLAN is marked as a native VLAN under this VPC channel. But if you hop on the um, Synergy side, I know this uplink going to that ACI VPC, you can see very important. This is for this particular uplink set, I define this tunnel. I only include one single tunnel network for all the VLANs coming in from this ACI VPC. Okay, and so that's all you need to do. So in this case, it really doesn't matter if the APIC we are doing trunk or access, over here. We just need to say, okay, I want to just put this pseudo wire between this uplink port and the server hypervisor downlink port. So that's pretty much all the configuration you need to do for the ACI tunnel mode working with Cisco ACI Synergy tunnel mode working with the Cisco ACI EPG. Okay, so the third I think so the next one will be the synergy with the Cisco ACI VM demo, demo. So let's go to. So for this one, let's just show you what do we have here. We'll just use this one. Let's go to virtual networking. Let's go to take a look at my VMN domain. For VMware, I know this is ACI AVS. It's one of the VMM. So you can see this is whatever you see here for the VMware, it will show up as the VMware DVS. You can see this is created by Cisco ACI. You can see this is a summary. You can see this is the APIC virtual switch. But if you take a look at the topology, and you can see this is bunch of port group defined under the ACI, the EPG under the defined under ACI. So ACI will in turn provision corresponding port group in its DBS. So for this case, we'll take a look at, we'll hop to the, I don't think I need this. I'll go to the tenant. We'll go to application profile, AP2, DVS EPG, DVS EPG4. You can see it's domain associated. This is ACI DVS. So pretty much we associate this particular DVS EPG4 under this ACI DVS virtual switch. And if you take a look here, you can see this is a corresponding port group created. So I already have one virtual machine running for this one. So this is VLAN 3001. So in this case, let's see. So this is across the virtual connect, right? So right now you can see this. Let me make sure. EPG4. Okay. So it has been pinging the traffic, out to the internet across the virtual connect module. Let's say to test the virtual connect, we can say we want to create a new one. So we want to create, say, application EPG. We create a new one. Let's say DVS EPG5. Okay, just give it a name. Bridge domain. I think I'm using. I think this one is, for EPG4, I'm using this one. So let's create, and then I want to make sure this EPG. So you can see EPG5 is created. Let's take a look here. Let's see if the port can refresh. Okay, so let's make sure we go to domain. We go to add VMM domain association. We want to associate with this DVS. Okay, leave everything is default. So now we say, okay, go ahead. The ACI say we want to create the corresponding port group on this DVS. Let's go here. Yeah, let's refresh this. Sometimes you can see it's created already here for the on the it's just in the topology. Sometimes you just need to refresh. Yeah, you can see this here. This is kind of a dynamic. So this comes in handy when you're doing the virtual connect tunnel mode. So remember tunnel mode, we really don't care about whatever VLAN. We'll just have a pseudo wire. So this core group will be talking with ACI encapsulation VLAN. But if you are using um, mapped mode, you need to make sure on your downlink you need to create 1074, and on you also assign it to the network set, and also you need to assign 1074 to the uplink, right? To make sure it has a connectivity for this VLAN going to the ACI. So for the static configuration, I just need to watch out. But for the later on in the Fabric Manager, it will help. Fabric Manager, it will see this kind of dynamic creation, and it will try to doing some auto remediation. But that's for the next demo. But over here, we are doing the tunnel mode. So let's see. I'm doing but this one doesn't have the any virtual machine. Actually, what I can do is to go to the virtual machine. I'll try to assign this virtual machine's network to the new EPG. DVS EPG, I'll say 5. But before I do that, I need to make sure I assign the contract for this EPG. Just make sure the security is allowed for this EPG to pass traffic. So we'll just allow everything. Because this, okay. Then on the ACI side, on the VMware side, we'll assign this one. So you can see right now the traffic is still pinging 115. Okay. One thing we can also make sure is right now, we'll make sure on the ACI current this virtual machine is in the EPG4. Okay. You can see we learned this endpoint in the EPG4. Let's go to the EPG5. It's empty, right? So let's see if we can flip this uh, virtual machine to EPG5. We change the NIC to the new port group 177. So it's still pinging. Okay, it's still pinging the traffic. Okay, so let's go back to the GUI. Let's go to ACI to see what's our learn. You can see now this EPG4 is VM is switch over to EPG5. Okay, and then right now if you want to go to the EPG4, so that doesn't have anything. So it shows for on the pretty much this demo shows on the uh, whatever you do between your ACI and VM integration with tunnel mode, you really doesn't need to do anything, right? So with tunnel mode, we really don't care, what's, the new port group, VLAN ID, which is the transparent for this traffic to between your hypervisor and the ACI layer, right? So let's see, this is ACI topology. So right now you can see my EPG doesn't have 4 doesn't have any VM, but my EPG 5 and does. Okay, so that concludes this virtual VMM and ACI with Synergy. Okay, for the other one will be the Fabric Manager uh, integration with ACI. So for this one, we can hop on this. We go to the ACI. Let's first go to the one view network section. You can see we'll exit out from the logical interconnect. We will go to Fabric Manager. The Fabric Manager. So you can see one option I mentioned is auto remediate. Right. So I turn it off. I just want to make sure as admin, I can manually confirm all the auto remediation, their suggestion, suggested by the Fabric Manager. Pretty much when you initially you do add this API controller, you just need to give it a name. It doesn't matter. But important is, what's your read-only access username and password, and then your API IP address. Okay, so this is important. Then after login, you select the tenant interested. Then you know, s- and you pretty much, you can uh, select the tenant you're interested, and then you will show or pull out these tenants. Right now, you can see I select the tenant 2, and for now, let's take a look at resource mapping. Okay, this is a working one. So right now I have the 3000, 2005, right? So everything's matching. If you take a look at the uh, network uh, network set, I have this network defined with this 3000 and 2005. And for the I'm trying to show uh, there's a there's a configuration. Well, we'll just stick to this one. Let me see which server profile. I think I'm using this one. If you 173, so you can see network set for Fabric Manager testing. Pretty much on the uplink layer, I think I'm using. Go to the networking. Go to the logical interconnect. Go to logical interconnect. Then if you go to edit. If you go to edit, I think I'm using this one. You can see 3000, 2005. So this is what I defined on the Synergy side. But if you want to hop on the ACI side, you can see the ACI because it's tenant 2. So we'll go to tenant 2 and application profile, AP1. So EPG1 and EPG2, right? So let's take a look at the EPG1 and EPG2. What's their domain? Okay, so that's FM testing. This is also FM testing. So if you hop on the VMware side for FM testing, let's take a look at what the configuration look like. Topology, you can see I have tenant 2, AP1, EPG1, and EPG2. So right now everything's matched, right? So, but assuming, um, for the ACI, they want to expand a new application. They will say, I want to add another EPG. We say EPG3. Okay, then to we'll just finish. So right now, if you go to, I think I should, I want to make sure on the Fabric Manager, you can see, I want to show you what's the state before and after. As I said, everything's mapping right now, everything's matching right now. But if I want to start to associate with this new EPG with that particular switch, DVS switch, then we'll see how the Fabric Manager react. So we know this is a .dvs. Let's say submit. Let's hop on the VMware side to make sure this DVS created. This is created already. EPG3 and then the FM testing. You can see so you can see this is a new VLAN created, new EPG, right? So on the VMware side, this is a new port group 2002. So let's hop on the Fabric Manager side. You can see now we change to inconsistency. We'll say what two. So Fabric Manager dynamically detect that there's a mismatch. The new configuration trigger on the ACI and the VMware side. So for the uplink, we are missing 2002. We are missing the on the this EPG3 2002. For the downlink, we for the network side, we also missing the 2002, which is the port group defined over here on the DBS. So you pretty much say, okay, something changed on the ACI, and also there's something changed on the DBS port group. So this is my solution suggestion. And do you want to do that or not? Do you want me to do the auto remediation? Let's see. Uh, I say I want to remediate inconsistency. I want to say I'll choose this tenant. I will choose yes. Okay. So in my experience, this process will take sometimes a couple of minutes. So right now I'll just try to pause the video. So then we'll come back when it's ready. Okay, I think now it finished. I think it took about three or 4 minutes. Okay, right now it's like 12:36 a.m. I started about 12:32 a.m. So let's take a look at here. You can see it's consistent. You can see the resource mapping. You can see right now we report we have 2003 VLANs. ACI has the 3 VLANs. On network set had 3 VLANs. So let's take a look to verify. So let's refresh this one. Cancel this. Go to Okay, so now it's 2002 is created, and let's take a look at our network and network set. So let's do the networks. You can see this one, 10 and 2, EPG3, 2002, and it's used by the one network set. You can see the network set now have the three. So the same network set is still included in the same server profile network connection. So right now we have end-to-end connectivity from ACI to through the virtual connect to the VMware DVS switch. Okay, so that finished the last uh, Synergy Fabric Manager integration with ACI, the demo part. So so pretty much, that's it for the presentation. Actually, I really recommend you check the latest Cisco ACI and HPE Synergy Interop white paper on the hpe.com. So uh, over here, I include much more details, information and the screen capture, some debug information in the white paper. So for some, scenario you want to pay attention, also talked about in the white paper. So, but that's beyond the scope of this um, short presentation for the ACI and Synergy Interop. So hopefully this is helpful. Thank you very much. And that's the end for the presentation.